Scrufflicious.
If you've been following my videos up to this point, you may have noticed I talk a lot about information and how it pertains to PUBG. That's because PUBG does a great job at providing you a lot of information about what's going on around you if you know what to look and listen for. So, for this video, I wanted to take a deeper look at some of the more nuanced ways as well as some more obvious ways the game provides you information about your enemies and perhaps highlight another reason why you suck at PUBG. First up, let's talk about audio. Since seeing other players in order to kill them is such an obvious necessity, I want to skip past that and focus more on the sorts of sounds you get from the game and how to interpret that information to your advantage. Spoilers, if you're playing this game without some kind of headphones or earbuds, you're gonna have a bad time. Since the majority of the information I'm going to be discussing today pertains to audio, let's talk about the two biggest sounds you'll find concerning the majority of your gameplay, which are going to be footsteps and gunfire. When it comes to close range combat, footsteps are the predominant conveyors of information. This is why you'll see a lot of pros and streamers performing the bunny hop technique when approaching compounds, objects, or navigating the map. That's because by jumping at a full sprint, it continues to provide some sort of forward momentum while cutting down the amount of continuous noise your character is making. Subsequently, it provides breaks in the audio for you so you can increase the likelihood of hearing another player's footsteps nearby. Another big aspect of footstep audio is familiarizing yourself with the sounds footsteps make across the various surfaces in the game. This can become incredibly important because you'll be able to identify a more specific location of your enemy if you know the footsteps you heard were being made by someone walking on grass, gravel, or the wooden floors from the interior of a building. Speaking of buildings, another specific or distinct sound to listen for is the sound of a character vaulting through or breaking windows with glass. Of course, not all windows have glass, but when they do, the sound of that breaking can be used to determine player location. Now, when it comes to alerting nearby players of your location, nothing rings the dinner bell quite like the sound of gunfire. Yet, hearing gunfire is only one piece of the information being provided to both the other players and yourself. Most often, gunfights are very conversational and have a lot of context clues you should be using, such as what type of gun is being fired, how many distinct weapon sounds you can identify, which might allude to how many people are fighting, and combining that information with the information provided by the kill feed. If you hear someone shooting a UMP that is followed by shots from an AKM, then this is a great time to start paying attention to the kill feed. Doing so could tell you if anyone has died yet, and if they did, who of the two was responsible, giving you an idea of what to expect if you were to run up on those two players and decide to get involved. When it comes to outplaying other players, using sound and manipulating it to your advantage can be super effective. In situations where you know another player is nearby but perhaps not close enough to hear your footsteps, you can get their attention by faking an engagement with another player by firing a few shots from one of your primary weapons and then firing a couple from your secondary. This isn't going to work every time and may potentially give away more information than you'd like, but when it works, it can be incredibly satisfying to pull off. Another great sound manipulation tool comes courtesy of the equipment PUBG provides, namely frag grenades and flash grenades. I feel like flash grenades are the more obvious ones in terms of their effectiveness at disrupting other players' ability to receive information, both by impairing players' vision and hearing. But frag grenades can be used in a very similar fashion. When standing within the grenade's blast radius, your vision remains unimpaired, but your audio is deafened for the next few seconds, providing a momentary window for you to either push the opposing player or mask your footsteps while you reposition. There are another handful of in-game moments that you can and should be using to your advantage in terms of hiding your movement. Things such as airdrops and red zones create great opportunities for this by the amount of noise pollution they emit during their duration. One thing to keep in mind about red zones, though, is that they have the ability to destroy doors and windows in buildings. Which brings me to my next point, and that's information provided in the way of clues to players' previous or current actions. Open doors and destroyed windows are great at letting you know whether or not a building has been previously looted by another player. This is especially critical in those moments where you're trying to find a safe place to hide to hold up or loot for more gear. Beware though, because some players like to hide the fact that a building has been looted or might be currently occupying by closing any doors they may have opened. In those cases, you can try to check whether or not an interior door might be open. This won't be the case 100% of the time, but it's a sign that chances of the building being occupied will be low. Once inside, you can check for clues to see if someone has been there or not. Things like partial boxes of ammo or bandages, dropped guns and equipment with skins on them, or if the building is completely devoid of loot at all. Unless of course you're playing on Erangel. One big tip is whether or not someone left a hat behind in exchange for a helmet. That lets you know that the looting that did take place was more than likely done during the early stages of the game. So, next time you drop into the game, I hope you have a better understanding of what things to look and listen for while you're playing. Just keep in mind that everything you do provides information to other players, and you should always be thinking about what clues and cues you leave behind. Whether it's a gunfight you just won or your footprints in the snow, everything has the potential to be used against you.